Ever get those recommendations online that feel almost like spooky?
Yeah.
Like, how do they know? I was just thinking about that thing.
Yeah.
Today, we're going deep into the world of recommendation systems,
Uh-huh.
specifically the AI.
Right.
We're unpacking something called Molar.
Okay.
That's Molar.
Got it.
And it's really pushing the boundaries of how these algorithms work.
What's really interesting about Molar is that it's not just one thing. It combines the power of LLMs, those large language models that everyone's talking about,
Right.
with good old-fashioned collaborative filtering.
So it's like blending the vast knowledge of a super smart librarian who's read everything
Yeah.
with the insights of a friend who just gets your taste.
Exactly. Think about those older recommendation systems. They often struggled because they relied on limited data,
Okay.
like just an item's ID or basic genre. Imagine recommending books based solely on ISBN numbers.
Oh, wow.
You'd miss out on so much.
Yeah, like judging a book by its cover, literally.
Yeah.
So how does Molar use LLMs to overcome those limitations?
Well, Mueller has this component called MirrorM,
Ah.
the multimodal item representation model.
Yeah.
And it uses a special type of LLM, an MLLM, to analyze tons of information about an item, text, images, metadata, even things like price or genre.
Wow.
And it crunches all of that into this concentrated package of information called an embedding.
So instead of just seeing an ISBN, Molar is actually reading the book, checking out the cover art, looking at the genre,
Yes.
even peeking at reviews, maybe?
A great example from the research paper is video recommendations.
Okay.
Molar takes the video description, analyzes the thumbnail image, and even looks at tags or categories.
Right.
All of that gets combined into one rich, multifaceted representation.
That makes way more sense than just going off an ID number.
Right.
But processing all that data must be incredibly complex, right?
It is, but that's where the power of MLLMs comes in.
Uh-huh.
They're designed for this kind of complexity.
Yeah.
And MirrorM goes a step further. It's trained to make sure the images and text are aligned, telling a consistent story about the item.
Oh, okay, so making sure the book cover actually matches what's inside.
Exactly.
But Molar doesn't just stop at understanding items, does it?
No.
It has to understand the user, too, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And that's where DUAID comes in,
Okay.
the dynamic user embedding generator.
All right.
DUAG takes those item embeddings we talked about and builds a dynamic picture of your preferences
Okay.
based on what you've liked before.
So if I'm always watching sci-fi videos, DUA starts to think, okay, this person is probably into spaceships and time travel.
Exactly. It's constantly evolving its understanding of you like a friend who's always paying attention to your reactions.
Hey, that's cool.
But here's the key. Even with all this fancy LLM analysis, Molar doesn't completely ditch traditional collaborative filtering. That's what makes it so powerful.
Yeah, so it uses both.
Yes.
So it's learning from my individual choices.
Right.
And from what other people like me have enjoyed.
That's right.
How does that work?
It's called post-alignment contrastive learning.
Okay.
After analyzing everything with LLMs,
Uh-huh.
Molar takes a step back and checks what traditional collaborative filtering tells us.
Okay.
This is how it captures those people who liked this also liked recommendations, even while using LLMs.
So Molar's like double checking its work, making sure its suggestions make sense from both an individual and a group perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty clever.
Yeah.
But does this two-pronged approach actually lead to better recommendations?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And the research indicates it does.
Okay.
They tested Molar on 3 real-world data sets.
Huh.
Amazon product recommendations,
Okay.
image-based recommendations from a data set called PixelRec,
Right.
and the classic Movie Lens data set for movies.
So not just some theoretical idea, they actually put it to the test.
Yeah.
What were the results like?
Oops.
Did Molar actually outperform other systems?
Yes,
Really?
consistently.
Wow.
It outperformed older methods and even some of the most advanced LLM-based recommendation systems out there.
So we're not just talking about minor improvements
I
here.
don't know.
These are some pretty significant advancements.
Yeah.
Can you give me some specifics?
Yeah.
What kind of performance boosts are we talking about?
For instance, on the Movie Lens data set,
Uh-huh.
they saw a 7% improvement in accuracy compared to some of the top methods being used.
Wow.
And the results were similarly impressive across the other data sets as well.
Wow. 7% might not sound like a lot, but in the world of recommendations, That's actually huge.
It is.
It could mean discovering something amazing that I wouldn't have otherwise.
Exactly. And remember, these are just initial results.
Right.
As LLMs continue to improve,
Yeah.
we can expect systems like Molar to get even better at understanding both items and users.
So Molar's just the beginning.
Uh-huh.
We're going to see a wave of even more sophisticated AI-powered recommendations coming our way.
Absolutely.
That's pretty exciting.
This is just the start of our exploration.
Okay.
We've covered how Molar works, but there's more to uncover.
Right.
We need to dive into its limitations and the exciting possibilities it opens up.
Okay, listeners, buckle up.
Yeah.
We're about to go even deeper into the world of Molar.
Right.
You won't want to miss it.
Definitely not. It's easy to get caught up in all this technical stuff with Molar, but,
Yeah.
No system is perfect.
Right. Yeah. What are some of the challenges facing Molar?
Well, one of the biggest is that it relies on a ton of data.
Okay.
Training these powerful LLMs requires so much information.
Yeah.
And that can be like a major resource constraint.
So it's like feeding a hungry giant.
Yeah.
Right. The more it learns, the more it needs to consume.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
and this brings us to another limitation.
Okay.
The LLMs themselves.
Right.
While the current ones are really impressive, they're still,
Yeah.
evolving.
Sure.
New, more powerful LLMs are constantly being developed.
Right.
And Molar's performance depends on the capabilities of these underlying models.
So as LLMs get smarter, so will Molar.
Yeah,
That's kind of exciting.
it is.
Like a system that's always learning and improving.
Precisely. But it also means that Molar, as it exists now, might not be the final word in AI-powered recommendations.
Right.
This field is constantly changing.
Yeah.
There's always room for improvement.
So what's next for Molar? What are researchers looking at to address these limitations?
Well, one promising area is developing more efficient training methods.
Okay.
Researchers are exploring ways to fine-tune these LLMs using less data,
Yeah.
which would make systems like Molar more accessible and flexible.
So making those AI giants a bit more nimble
Yeah,
and less data hungry.
exactly. And on the LLM front,
Yeah.
things are moving so fast.
Yeah.
New architectures and training techniques are constantly pushing the boundaries.
Right.
We can expect to see LLMs that are not just more powerful, but more specialized for specific tasks, including recommendations.
So could Molar eventually have an LLM brain specifically designed for understanding my individual taste?
Yeah.
Now that's what I call personalization.
That's a very apt way to put it.
Yeah.
Another exciting area of research is exploring new modalities.
Okay.
Remember, Molar currently uses text, images, and metadata.
Right, but there's a whole world of sensory information out there.
Yeah.
What about audio, video, even things like how a user interacts with a platform?
Uh-huh.
Could those be incorporated?
Absolutely. Researchers are already looking at ways to integrate these richer data types. Imagine a system that not only understands the words in a movie review,
Right.
but also analyzes the tone of voice or the facial expressions of the reviewer.
Wow, that's some serious next-level analysis.
Yeah.
It's like Molar's becoming an expert in human emotions on top of all the information it already processes.
And as these capabilities grow,
Yeah.
we can expect recommendation systems to become even more nuanced and insightful.
Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty of those experiments you mentioned.
Sure.
You said they tested Molar on 3 different data sets.
Right.
Let's start with Amazon product recommendations.
Okay.
What did those experiments reveal?
Well, the Amazon data set is enormous with millions of products and interactions.
Yeah.
This was a real test of Molar's ability to handle large-scale recommendation problems.
So they threw Molar into the deep end of the e-commerce pool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it performed incredibly well. The results showed that Molar consistently outperformed traditional methods and even other LLM-based systems on key metrics like NDCG and recall.
Okay, for those of us who haven't taken a stats class recently, remind us what those metrics actually measure.
Of course, NDCG stands for Normalized Discounted Cumulative Gain.
Okay.
And it measures how well a system ranks relevant items, with those at the top of the list getting more weight.
Right.
Recall measures the proportion of relevant items that are successfully retrieved.
So a high score on both means Molar's not only suggesting good things, but also putting the best stuff right where I'll see it.
Precisely.
Okay.
That's exactly what the Amazon experiment showed.
Hmm.
Molar was able to, sift through that vast catalog
Yeah.
and surface the products most likely to interest the user.
Okay, that's impressive. But what about image-based recommendations, those experiments
Yeah.
using the Pixel Rec data set?
Yeah,
That sounds like a whole different challenge.
it is. PixelRec focuses on recommendations based purely on images,
Right.
which is, a unique challenge.
Yeah.
It's not just about understanding what's in the image, but also capturing the visual style, aesthetics, and even the emotions they evoke.
So it's like Molar needs to be an art critic on top of everything else.
You could say that.
Wow.
And the PixelRec results were especially interesting because they highlight the importance of multimodal fusion.
Multimodal fusion, right?
Right.
That's where Molar combines information from different sources like
Right.
text and images.
Exactly. They tested Molar using different input combinations.
Okay.
Images only, text only,
Uh-huh.
and then images and text combined.
Gotcha.
And consistently, the combined input produced the best results across all metrics.
So like having two eyes is better than one.
Yeah.
Molar gets a more complete picture when it can't like see and read at the same time.
Precisely. It reinforces the idea that different types of data contribute unique knowledge. Images might capture the visual appeal, while text provides descriptions or reviews.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Now, what about the movie lens dataset? That's the classic movie recommendation dataset.
Right.
How did Molar do there?
Well, Movie Lens is interesting
Okay.
because it brings back that collaborative filtering aspect.
Okay.
It's not just about understanding the movies themselves, but also those patterns of user ratings and preferences.
So tapping into the wisdom of the crowd again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And on Movie Lens, Molar showed a remarkable 7% improvement in accuracy compared to some of the best existing methods.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
This underscores the importance of including those collaborative signals, even when using powerful LLMs.
So it's like Molar is acknowledging that even with its huge LLM brain, it's still helpful to consider what other people have liked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is where that post-alignment contrast of learning we talked about really shines.
Right.
It allows Molar to combine its LLM-based understanding with insights from collaborative filtering data.
So it's constantly cross-referencing, making sure its recommendations are grounded in both individual and group preferences.
Precisely. That's what makes it so robust.
Yeah.
It's not relying on just one source of information, but integrating multiple perspectives to come up with the best recommendations.
Okay, so far we've covered the technical details of Molar, its limitations, and some exciting possibilities for the future.
Right.
But what does all of this mean for the average listener? You know, like for you,
Yeah.
how does understanding a system like Molar change how we think about the recommendations we see every day?
That's the crucial question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now that we've peeked behind the curtain,
Yeah.
it's hard to view those recommendations in the same light.
Right, it's not magic anymore.
Right.
There's this whole complex interplay of algorithms and data and even human choices that shape what we see online.
Exactly. And I think this understanding empowers us in several ways.
Okay,
First, it makes us more aware of the potential limitations of these systems.
so we're less likely to just accept every recommendation that pops up.
Precisely. We can start asking critical questions.
Right.
Like, why am I seeing this?
Yeah.
What data is behind this recommendation?
Right, it's about becoming more conscious about the information we consume,
Yes.
even when it's disguised as a helpful suggestion.
Exactly. And secondly,
Yeah.
this understanding can also, ignite our own curiosity and creativity.
Interesting. How so?
Well, once we grasp the basic ideas behind these systems, we can start thinking about how to apply them in our own lives.
So it's like learning the rules of the game.
Yeah.
So we can start playing it ourselves.
Precisely. Maybe we start paying closer attention to our own habits. Or we explore different ways to organize and filter the information we encounter.
Or maybe we even get inspired to create our own recommendation systems for things we're passionate about.
Yeah.
The possibilities are endless.
Absolutely. But let's go back to Molar for a moment.
Okay.
We talked about how it excelled on all three datasets, Amazon, PixelRec, and Movie Lens.
Right.
But there's a really fascinating detail about those results that's worth exploring further.
Okay. I love a good detail. What is it?
It turns out that the choice of the post-alignment model, remember that step where Molar combines LLM knowledge with collaborative filtering data?
Right. That balancing act between the individual and the group.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The researchers tested different collaborative filtering models during this post-alignment stage.
And did some models work better than others?
That's a fascinating part. They found that using more powerful sequential recommendation models, specifically one called Duorec, led to even better results.
So it's not just about having a powerful LLM brain.
Right.
It's about choosing the right collaborative filtering model to work alongside it.
Precisely. The synergy between those components is key to Molar's effectiveness.
Hmm.
Duorec, with its ability to capture complex sequences of user interactions, turned out to be a particularly strong partner.
So it's like Molar saying, hey, I might have all this knowledge, but I still value the insights of a seasoned recommender.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this highlights the importance of using the right tools for the task.
Uh-huh.
It's not always about using the most complex method, but about finding the combination that works best for the specific problem.
Okay, that's a valuable insight, but what does this mean for the future of Molar?
Hmm.
Could we see even more powerful collaborative filtering models being integrated into the system?
That's definitely a possibility. As the field of recommendations continues to evolve, we can expect to see new models that capture even more nuanced patterns in how users behave.
So it's like Molar is constantly getting upgrades to its collaborative filtering sidekick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And those upgrades would lead to even more accurate and insightful recommendations.
This is getting really interesting.
Right.
We've covered so much ground already.
Yeah.
From the technical nuts and bolts to the bigger picture of what Molar means for how we discover and consume information.
Uh-huh.
But I'm curious, what else is out there on the horizon? Where does the research go from here?
Well, remember those 3 different training objectives we touched on earlier?
Mm.
Image-text alignment,
Uh-huh.
structured attribute processing,
Okay.
and temporal user behavior understanding.
Right. Those are quite a mouthful.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're all about fine-tuning how Molar's MLLM learns to represent items.
Okay. Walk me through them again.
Sure.
What does each one actually do?
So image-text alignment ensures the MLLM combines visual and textual information effectively,
Okay.
making sure they tell a consistent story.
Right.
Structured attribute processing helps it understand and incorporate metadata, things like price or genre.
So it's making sure Molar can process everything about an item.
Yep.
The book cover, the blurb, the price tag, all at the same time.
Exactly. And finally,
Yeah.
temporal user behavior understanding focuses on capturing how user preferences change over time.
So it's like the MLLM is tracking how my tastes evolve.
Yes.
Whether I'm watching more movies or reading more books.
Precisely.
Okay.
And the researchers found that all 3 of these training objectives contributed to Molar's overall performance. It's like giving the MLLM a well-rounded education,
Right.
ensuring it can handle all aspects of the recommendation problem.
Okay, so we've got the collaborative filtering partner,
Yeah.
the LLM brain,
Uh-huh.
and those specific training objectives.
Right.
Anything else that makes Molar tick?
Well, there's one more fascinating aspect worth exploring, the role of ablation studies.
Ablation studies, right. Those are like experiments where you remove one part at a time to see what happens.
Exactly. The researchers used ablation studies to figure out the contributions of different parts of Molar. For example, they removed the post-alignment contrastive learning module
Okay.
to see how much it affected performance.
And what happens? Did Molar completely fall apart without its collaborative filtering sidekick?
It definitely took a hit. The results showed a noticeable drop in performance,
Okay.
especially on metrics like NDCG.
Right.
This highlighted the importance of incorporating collaborative filtering data, even with powerful LLMs.
So again, it's like Molar saying, I might be smart, but I still need the wisdom of the crowd.
Yeah,
It's all about balance.
exactly. And this is a theme we've seen throughout our exploration of Molar.
Mm-hmm.
The power comes from combining different approaches.
Right. It's not just about having the biggest, fanciest LLM,
Right.
but about finding the right partners and the right training methods.
Precisely. And ablation studies are a great tool for understanding those complex interactions and the contributions of each component.
Okay, I think we've officially covered every nook and cranny of Molar.
I think so.
But I have one last question before we wrap up this deep dive.
Okay.
You've mentioned some exciting possibilities for the future of Molar.
Yeah.
But what about the broader implications for the field of recommendations as a whole? Where do we go from here?
That's a fantastic question. I believe Molar represents a major shift in how we think about recommendations.
Okay, tell me more.
So traditionally,
Yeah.
recommendation systems have relied on relatively simple models,
Uh-huh.
like collaborative filtering or content-based filtering.
Right, those were the go-to approaches before AI came along and shook things up.
Exactly, but those methods have their limits.
Okay.
They're good at picking up on basic patterns, but they struggle to understand the deeper meaning and nuances of items and users.
So they might recommend a movie in the same genre as one I liked, but they might not understand why I actually like that movie.
Precisely.
And
They might miss subtle factors like tone,
yeah?
pacing, acting style, or even the emotional themes that resonated with you.
And that's where LLMs come in.
Yes.
They can grasp those deeper nuances.
Exactly. LLMs, with their ability to process natural language and even images, can capture those deeper layers of meaning.
So LLMs are bringing a whole new level of understanding to the world of recommendations.
Precisely. And Molar is just the tip of the iceberg.
Wow.
We're going to see a wave of new recommendation systems that use the power of LLMs to understand items and users in ways we never thought possible.
So what are some specific ways LLMs could revolutionize recommendations?
Imagine a system that understands not just the plot of a movie, but also its emotional arc, its pacing, its cinematography, and even the cultural context it was created in.
That's like having a film critic built into my phone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that kind of system could tailor its recommendations to your specific tastes, far beyond just matching genres.
So it's not just about finding me another romantic comedy. It's about finding a movie that evokes a specific mood or explores a theme that resonates with me personally.
Precisely. And this level of personalization could be applied to all kinds of things. Books, music, art, even travel destinations,
Right.
all based on a deep understanding of your preferences.
Wow, that's like having a personal concierge for every aspect of my life.
It really is a remarkable leap forward.
Okay, I'm fully on board with this AI-powered future of recommendations. This has been a mind-blowing deep dive.
I'm glad you found it insightful.
We've been talking about how AI is going to revolutionize recommendations. But before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I wanted to circle back to something you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
Molar's performance was influenced by something called MLLM backbones.
Right.
Can you explain what those are
Yeah.
and why they matter?
Of course, the MLLM backbone is essentially the core architecture of that multimodal large language model that powers Molar.
Okay.
Think of it as the foundation
Uh-huh.
upon which all those recommendation abilities are built.
Okay, so it's like the engine of the whole system.
Yeah.
What happens when you try out different backbones?
Right.
Does it actually make a difference in how well Molar works?
Yeah. The researchers looked into that specifically.
Okay.
And their findings were really interesting. They tested MLLMs of different sizes,
Okay.
different architectures,
Uh-huh.
and even different training methods.
Okay, let's break that down.
Sure.
First, size.
Okay.
We've already talked about how bigger LLMs tend to perform better.
Right.
Did they find the same thing with MLLMs?
Absolutely.
Okay.
As they increased the size of the MLLM backbone,
Yeah.
Molar's recommendations became more accurate.
Hmm.
It's like having a larger capacity for knowledge directly translates into better suggestions.
So in the world of MLLMs, bigger really is better.
There's definitely a strong connection there.
Yeah.
But it's not just about raw size.
Right.
The architecture of the MLLM is also crucial.
Right. We talked about how some architectures are better suited for certain tasks.
Yeah.
What did they find specifically when it came to recommendations?
Well, even when comparing MLLMs of a similar size,
Uh-huh.
they discovered that certain architectures consistently outperformed others.
Interesting.
It's like some backbones are, wired differently,
Yeah.
making them more adept at understanding those relationships between items and users that are
Yeah.
key for accurate recommendations.
So it's about finding the right tool for the job.
Yeah.
Some MLMs might be better with images, while others excel at processing text. Right.
Precisely.
Okay.
Matching the optimal architecture to the specific recommendation task can make a huge difference in how well it performs.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about training methods?
Right.
Didn't they also experiment with different ways of training these MLMs?
They did. One really interesting technique they used was called LoRA,
Okay.
which stands for low rank adaptation.
LoRA, low rank adaptation.
Yeah.
I have to admit that one sounds a bit over my head.
Yeah.
What is it exactly?
It's a clever way of fine-tuning large language models
Okay.
without retraining the entire model from scratch.
Wait, so they can tweak these massive MLLMs without going through that whole lengthy training process again?
Exactly.
Wow.
This is a huge benefit
Yeah.
because training these giant models can be incredibly time-consuming
Right.
and require a lot of resources.
So LoRa is like a shortcut,
Yeah,
a way to make MLLM brains more flexible and efficient.
you could say that.
Cool.
And what's remarkable is that they found that MLLMs trained with LoRa could perform just as well as models that had been fully retrained, even on massive data sets like the one from Amazon.
So they're getting the same results with much less effort.
Right.
That's a real game changer.
Absolutely. And this is significant for the future of Molar and other LLM-powered systems. You know, it means we can make them more adaptable, more responsive to new information, and even more personalized, all without those huge computational costs.
This is all so fascinating.
Yeah.
The researchers are really pushing the limits of AI, but let's zoom out for a second.
Okay.
We've been deep in the technical weeds.
Right.
What does this mean for the average person?
Yeah.
How is this revolution in recommendation systems going to affect our everyday lives?
That's the important question, isn't it? And I think the implications are huge.
Okay.
First and foremost, we can expect a big jump in the quality of recommendations we receive. Whether we're shopping, listening to music, or trying to pick a movie.
Yeah.
AI-powered systems like Molar will be able to suggest things that are more relevant, more tailored to us, and maybe even more surprising.
So it's like having a personal assistant who knows our taste even better than we do.
Exactly, but it goes beyond just getting the right recommendations.
Right.
AI can help us break out of our usual patterns and discover things we might never have found on our own. It can open us up to new genres, artists, even ideas that challenge us and broaden our perspectives.
So it's not just about convenience.
Right.
It's about exploration and growth, too.
Exactly. AI has the potential to become a catalyst for those amazing moments of serendipity, where we stumble upon something unexpected that truly enriches our lives.
Okay, you've convinced me I'm ready for this AI-powered future.
Good.
This whole conversation has been mind-blowing.
I'm glad.
We've covered so much.
Yeah.
How Molar works, its potential to change recommendations, even the ethical things to consider as AI gets more sophisticated.
Right.
But more than that, I think this deep dive has really sparked a sense of wonder and excitement about what's possible. It's shown us that AI, when used thoughtfully, can not only make our lives easier, but also help us become more curious, open-minded, and connected to all the knowledge and experiences that are out there.
That's beautifully put. And as we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with this thought. The future of AI is not set in stone. It's being shaped right now by the choices we make, the questions we ask, and the values we hold.
Okay.
So let's keep these important conversations going, keep pushing the boundaries, and make sure that AI is a force for good in the world.
What a great way to wrap things up.
Yeah.
We've gone from the inner workings of Molar to talking about how we can shape the future of AI itself.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. That's what I love about these deep dives. It's not just about learning new facts. It's about empowering ourselves to make informed decisions and create a better future for everyone.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of Molar and AI-powered recommendations.
My pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.